Welcome to the GetRealWealth.com radio show, where wealth means a lot more than just building a second stream of income. Listen and learn how 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate to create a lifestyle that most people only dream about. A lifestyle that includes good health, family, romance, travel, charity, and all the other parts of a balanced life. Now, here is your host, real estate investor and mentor, Steve Davis.
Good afternoon and welcome to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I am your host, Steve Davis. We are live today, and I've got a special guest on today, one of the top syndicators in the United States, one of the top apartment investors, multiple awards. I'm going to read his bio before I bring him on. It's a couple of paragraphs long, but I think it's necessary so you understand how, when you talk to some of these syndicators, how accomplished they really are and why they get paid what they get paid. And it's really an impressive bio, but we'll read that in a minute. I want to talk a little bit about yesterday's show where I talked about conditioned response and the fact that a lot of people have associated massive pain to owning a business of any type. They think it's going to be hard. They've also got this fear of failure. That's a big one right there. They're like, well, which is sad because the fear of failure is almost always ego-based. They're worried about how they'll look to their friends. They're worried about how they'll look to their relatives. And the number one, according to Napoleon Hill, the number one reason people fail is because they even listen to their friends, neighbors, acquaintances. So who cares what they think? But anyway, people associate massive pain to running a business. Real estate is a business, and so they associate massive pain, late night phone calls and so on, to owning real estate. And I talked a lot about how, one, those beliefs are not true, and how what you really should associate pain to is working for 40 years and retiring at or below poverty income levels, like 95% of Americans do. That's what you should associate pain to. That would propel you to take action towards something like opening a business or buying some real estate. And of course, my sales pitch is real estate's the easiest tool there is to build wealth. But I got quite a few emails about it. Different people, very kind people, telling me about funny associations that they had. One of the most heartbreaking was this. This guy was prepared to marry this woman, and he caught her cheating. They split up, and that event was so painful to him that he associated more pain to being in a relationship than being out, and went something like, I want to say it was 19 years. Went through 4 or 5 different relationships where he associated so much pain to getting close that he never got close. So associative conditioning can ruin your life if you don't control it. So one more warning. Take control of this stuff. You know, if you think, that you want to be financially independent, and you listen to me and I lay out this path, and even though I lay out the path for you, you still have fears, you still associate pain to it, and you associate less pain to doing nothing, get control of that. Because doing nothing leads to that 95% that don't retire. They work till the day they die, or till they're too sick and old to work, and then they become a burden on their kids or on the government and so on. So use what I taught you yesterday. If you did not hear that show, I highly recommend it. And I taught the show, but you know what I mean. I really think everyone should listen to that so they understand how associative conditioning works and how it can destroy your life if you don't control it. Because corporate America is controlling your associative conditioning. They are. They produce movies that make it glamorous to live in expensive homes, drive expensive cars, and they push you towards their goals. Whereas, have you ever seen a movie about someone building passive income? You ever seen a movie about somebody starting their own business? Now, there is one out there. If you haven't seen this movie, it's really good. It's Jerry Maguire, where he quits being a pawn, if you will, for a sports agency and starts his own agency. That's a really good movie. But there's just not many of those out there. The rest of them are showing you people, they show you criminals that are successful. I know this always cracked me up. People that deify Tony Montana. And I'm like, you do know he killed his best friend and ended up dead. You know, that's not somebody you really, but they think that's cool. You know, and I was like, you missed the point of the movie. So watch out for that associative conditioning. Corporate America is trying to control your associative conditioning every single day. Every day that you watch TV and you see commercials or you watch a TV program or a movie, they are trying to manipulate you to buy certain things, to have certain goals that make them money. So be cautious of that. Control it, get control of it, and be a master of your destiny by controlling it. I mean, it changes your life. It really does. Okay, let me read this bio of Robert Martinez, and then we'll go to break, and I'll bring him on right after the break. But Robert Martinez is the founder and CEO of Rockstar Capital, an investment and multifamily property management firm specializing in the acquisition and management of value-add opportunities across Texas, the value play. Remember, there's two types of apartments. There's the yield play and the value play. I think in this upmarket, yield plays are really out of the question because you're getting 3, 4, 5, 6% rate of return. And single families producing triple that. Currently, his portfolio consists of 3,762 units across 21 complexes. As the CEO and founder, Robert directs the investment strategy, sources the investment capital, and secures the appropriate financing. Since 2011, Rockstar Capital Management has become one of the most decorated property management companies in Texas with 17 city, state, and National Apartment Association awards. Other industry achievements include top-rated status. There's a blank here for the entire Rockstar portfolio from 2015 to 2018, and the distinction of being ranked the number 4 multifamily management company in Texas, and for online reputation by J. Turner Research. In all 5 Rockstar Capital communities ranked in the top 1% nationally out of 116,000 communities for online resident satisfaction. We'll talk to Robert after the break. This is the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. You're listening to AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas. Thank you. Did you know that 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate as their main investment vehicle? You can and should have some real estate in your portfolio. This is Steve Davis, host of the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Starting with bad credit and no money at age 27, I began investing in real estate. By 30, I was retired. I will be explaining this at a free 2-hour introductory workshop this month. If you would like to attend, go to GetRealWealth.com. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thank you for listening. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. I'm about to introduce you to Robert Martinez, but I want to finish this. I mean, there's still another paragraph about his accomplishments. Rockstar Capital was included in the prestigious Houston Business Journal Fast 100 for the second consecutive year. That's 2018 and 19. Robert was also named an honoree on Houston Business Journal's Most Admired CEO list in 2019, and Rockstar received its first international recognition as a great place to work, achieving silver rank for the Stevie Awards. So these lead investors, or syndicators, I prefer to call them, are highly accomplished, and there is so much more that goes into being a great syndicator than just understanding how to run an apartment. They're running an entire business that runs apartments, if that makes sense. So let me welcome Robert to the show. Robert, thank you so much for calling in. How are you today?
Hey, Steve. How are you? Thanks for having me on the show today.
It's an honor. Robert is one of the first members of Real Wealth Academy and the premier syndicator at this point. He'll be putting together deals with our members over the next few years with an incredible goal. You've already got 3762 units. What is your goal, Robert?
You know, I don't know if I have a goal necessarily. I know what I'm doing on social media is I'm trying to document our journey on the way to 10,000. So I guess if there was a goal, we're trying to get to 10,000. But as you know, in real estate, you go backwards and forwards. We've sold a deal here. We're looking at selling a couple more deals this year. We've got in contract 2 different deals totaling 320-some units down in South Texas. So, you know, that's why I say we're documenting the journey to get to 10,000.
Interesting. And then probably when you hit 10,000, you'll probably go, you know, I think it'll be 20. Or do you think you'll do that? What are your thoughts on that?
You know, we're moving so quickly as a company. Things look so differently today than what they just did a year ago. I can't even imagine where we're going to be 5 years or 10 years from now. I think the 10,000 goal is probably going to take 5 years from today. But to get to 10,000, you know, I can't even imagine. It's going to be an amazing accomplishment when it occurs. I think when we cross that bridge, you know, we'll get there.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And I've got a couple of questions here. I just want you to know that I posted on Facebook, posted on my LinkedIn. People started emailing Robert, and people started joining Real Wealth Academy within moments after I mentioned your name. So you've got a lot of fans out there, Robert. But one guy asks if you're going to buy anything out of state.
Well, first of all, thank you to everybody that was listening or supported me or Rockstar Capital, my company, over the years. We've been in business since 2011, and as you mentioned, we've got, you know, $100 million of equity that we take care of and we really value. And so I'm hoping that that's some of our investors there. But if not, you know, welcome to the club. It's amazing opportunity. When we go out of state, that plan is not in the cards this year. This year we have a big focus to go to South Texas. We've only been out of Houston for a year. Most of my portfolio, would call it, you know, 80 to 90% of the portfolio is in the greater Houston area. We got started in Humble. We've expanded out to Baytown. We've got some properties that are down in Brazoria County, and we just saw tremendous upside in some of the tertiary markets, especially because we're trying to avoid the tax man in Houston. And if you know what I'm talking about, he's been on a rampage the last 2 or 3 years. So necessity is the mother of invention. It forced us to re-examine, get tighter. I don't mind the business issues like that. I think we can learn from them. And so we've gotten certainly tighter in operations. We've produced record cash flow in 2019, and certainly we've got even greater goals for 2020. But we're focusing on tertiary markets this year. I do hear Phoenix is incredible. I do hear Florida is very nice. If I was going to focus out of state, it would be anywhere where there's no state income tax, and businesses are allowed to run like businesses and don't have a lot of government, interference or oversight.
Well, you just blew California out of the water.
Yeah, I'm not going to go to California. I'm going to go on vacation there at Disney, and I'll spend my tourism dollars, but I don't want to live there.
Yeah, I prefer Florida. I've heard good things about Atlanta as well, that it's a very good environment for real estate investors. So let me see. Let me get to the next question. Next question is, actually, this is from someone I know, and they wish to remain anonymous. They wanted you to share some stories about your family. You're not just a real estate investor, are you?
No. I mean, I'm a dad first and foremost. You know, I have 2 little boys. I call them little. They're getting quite a bit young men now, 14 and 11. My boys, Connor and Ryan.
Wow.
And they were my inspiration for joining real estate, for getting involved, you know, because as we grew our family, I needed to grow my income. And, you know, I went to school, got good grades like a lot of people, and I got out in the workforce and I became an engineer but focused on sales, which I think has been an amazing attribute for me. But I did that, and then doing that, as any good sales guy, you want to get paid on commission. And so you rely on what you're going to make. You want to kill what you're going to eat at night. And when that game changes, and that happened 2 or 3 times to me in corporate America, it realized that I didn't have control of my life. I had to take control. But the reason all that occurred is because I had 2 little boys, and I wanted to make a life for them. I wanted to be there for them. I love my children. We do soccer. You can count on me every Saturday and many times Sunday at the soccer fields. Today I've got one of them. He's got to have soccer practice, so I'll be there tonight. And real estate investing and the life I've been able to lead through real estate allows me that flexibility to be there to any overnight game, to any out-of-town game. I get a chance to do that, you know. And frankly, we talk real estate all the time. I mean, I talk to them all the time about stuff. You know, there's been some recent stuff going on with me, and I let them listen to a podcast. And my youngest, you know, gave me such incredible advice, you know, on how to handle it. And it's like, wow, the maturity and the growth that these young men have by just being exposed to, you know, a business at an early age is amazing. It makes it a lot of fun, you know, and all you mom and dads out there, when you get that first text message from your children, or when you get, you know, just they use technology to get a hold of you, now they're giving you business advice. It's like, wow, I've got my future little partners here. It's exciting.
It is exciting. I've got my son working with me at Real Wealth Academy, my daughter, and I'm so proud of them because. But this goes back. Let's step back a moment. Remember when Robert Kiyosaki wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, and his sales pitch was that the rich teach their kids differently than the poor and the middle class. And doggone it, that is true. Because if you look at your kids already having insight into business at 11 and 14, that's crazy. At 11 and 14, I couldn't even balance a checkbook. You know, I didn't even know what a checkbook was. Same with my kids. My son graduated college with $4,000 a month passive income not because he's smarter or harder working. He's a very intelligent guy. He works hard, but not harder than anybody else. But he had the right information, the right map, if you will. And you're laying that map out for your kids. And the other thing is you're leading by example. You're not telling them this is what they should do. You're doing it. And that's 10 times more powerful for a child.
Absolutely. I think you hit it right on the head. I think Kiyosaki, if it was one book or one like aha moment, was reading that book and changing it. It's funny because I read that book in my early 20s, and I literally was on a car ride. It was back when I had an audio cassette. I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. This was dumb. It was right after I got out of school from A&M, and I was on a field trip. I literally threw it out the window. I was just like, this is dumb. And it wasn't until my early 30s when I realized what had just occurred with my commissions and my sales getting cut a couple of times that I re-popped that book in, and it all made sense. It all made sense. And now as I live that life, you're 100% right. You know, your children will learn differently than you, just like you learn differently than your parents. You know, I credit my mom and my dad for most, if not all, of my success because they gave me a proper childhood that was free of a lot of issues that some people have to go through. My dad worked for Whataburger for 40-plus years and was just the hardest working man I knew. And my mom has this amazing, and the biggest heart. And he showed me how to talk to people, and he showed me how to just, you know, how to just try to find a win-win in every relationship that I think that helped me, you know, tenfold in my life. But then my mom gave me like a little bit of pride, some ego, you know, a little bit of what you need to survive today. And I'm very fortunate I get to put both of that together and put it into my kids. I mean, my kids, when they hit that soccer field, you know whose kids those are because, one, I'm cheering my head off on the sideline, and two, they play like little bulldogs. And I think that's important because that's how life needs to be. You got to fight. You got to push through, and nothing's going to come easy, and you got to work for every moment of it, and it's not going to go right. I love it when they're down 1-0, 2-0, and they look at me, and like, you know, what do I do? What do I think? And I just point to my head, and I point to my heart, which they know is code, like, keep control. Keep your emotions. Don't lose your head. Stay through it. And oftentimes they battle back and they tie the game up, and sometimes they come back and win it, and they learn perseverance. And I love sports for that aspect. Because that's life. You're gonna get knocked down, and you pick yourself back up and you fight through it.
I love that. What a great rapport to have with your kids, where you can have a signal like that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing is, you told me the other day you've actually got some projects you're working on, even as we speak. It's two, isn't it?
I got two properties, right? I got one that we're looking at that we've got in the contract in Kingsville, and I've got another one that we're in the contract stage where, the attorneys are dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and so we should have that in contract this week, and that's down the valley where I'm actually from. I'm from McAllen, and this property is in that area.
Excuse me. And as you add these to the portfolio, do you have, I'm just curious, and because I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, you have a area supervisor as well as on-site property managers?
We do. We've been very blessed to grow this company. Originally, it was me by myself, and then Melissa, my COO, joined our company, and as a leasing agent, right? We trained her, developed her, grew her, and from that point on, our company grew. Well,
let me interrupt you because we got to go to break, Robert. Okay. But we'll finish this thought when we come back from the commercials. All right, this is the GetRealWealth.com radio show. You're listening to Steve Davis and my special guest, Robert Martinez, one of the top syndicators in the United States. We'll talk more after the break. Thanks for listening. 70% of the millionaires in America used real estate as their main investment vehicle. Listen to the GetRealWealth.com radio show to find out how you can do it too. Saturdays at 9 a.m. right here on the Voice of Texas, AM 700 KSCV. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis, along with my special guest, Robert Martinez, CEO and founder of Rockstar Capital. A syndicator's put together 3,762 units so far across 21 communities and getting ready to pick up 2 more communities. Robert, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thank you.
So continue with your thought from the end of the last segment.
Yeah, so, it is not a one-man show. I started out like that, like everybody else, and we started very mom and pop, and we had to learn the business. And as the years went on, I realized, wow, we're actually pretty good at this, and we started to add to the team. Today, I'm very proud. We have 120 people that guard and manage with their life $380 million of assets, of our investors' assets.
Wow.
I've got a C-suite executive team. I've got a vice president of marketing, a vice president of operations. The list goes on. I have area managers underneath them. I have the actual property managers. We have a complete team, and everybody knows what they're doing. We got some, as you mentioned before, we got 17 city, state, national awards from that team. And it is definitely not a one-man show. There is no I in team. This is a Rockstar team effort.
And it's just another piece of evidence for that point that's been made so many times for hundreds of years, that life is a team sport, and especially business. And I see people out there on their own, mom and popping it, and they're getting slaughtered. They're getting beat up. They don't know what they're doing. I talked to a guy today that told me that he's got 17 or 18 houses. Wow, I may be getting these 2 phone calls mixed up. But it was something like that, and he goes, but you know what I did? I speculated. I bought them at full price, waiting for them to go up. Well, if he'd have had a mentor would have never let him do that. Tell me a little bit about, you're constantly educating yourself. I know that for a fact. What do you spend a year on continuing education? I know you just went to see the awesome, what's his name?
Gary Grant?
Yeah, Gary and Grant. You went to see Grant Cardone. You're just constantly educating yourself. What would you say you spend a year?
On education?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. See, the thing is, it's not just me. I want to educate my team. I didn't go alone to Gary Vaynerchuk. I took several people to Gary Vaynerchuk and the video crew. And we had a nice time out of it, right? Because I've learned when I went to go see Gary alone, I didn't take a video team the first time I went to go see Gary back in 2017. I came home with all this enthusiasm and all this motivation, but I couldn't get it into everybody's head. I needed them to feel it with me. And so education is huge for us. We spend a tremendous amount of money going to different expositions, going to travel events, training events, different live shows, and it's no longer just like apartment-related stuff. like what you would go to at the Texas Apartment Association or HAA, which is our local Houston Apartment Association chapter, or even the national. We've got to challenge ourselves. We got to be innovative. And we go to like a lot of the tech ones, especially the ones that focus on social media and how to stand out, because everybody has a brand. Just some are more well known than others. But why is that? Because we're taught by mom and dad not to tell your story. We're taught by teachers in school to stay quiet. We're taught to color within the lines. I know I used to get mad at my kids if they were speaking up and not saying anything, and they're great children. They didn't have an attitude problem, but just like everybody else, they have a lot of energy. They have things to say, and we go and we kind of stymie that effort. And so in life, they don't challenge themselves. They don't express themselves. They don't color outside the lines and try to be creative, right? And I think that's what we do differently these past few years, that we decided that we wanted to tell our story. And so what I like to do, I like to go visit these guys in person. I'll spend the money to sit down in front of them, because it's not cheap. I wish to think that they would let me sit there for free because I'm somebody, but I'm not. I pay. It's a business. I know people who go spend money to go see Tony Robbins. I'll spend money to go sit down from Grant Cardone. I'll spend money to go sit down from Gary Vaynerchuk and get that one-on-one mentorship all by myself, or specifically what I just said, with my team, recording it all so we can go back and dissect it all and dissect every piece of it and understand. And sometimes the lesson of what you hear, you don't get it that very moment, but then you come home and 2 weeks later, a month later, you have that aha moment. And you're like, this is what he meant. This is what he was talking about. So we've been able to frame a lot of our social media strategy around that, and it's helped us dramatically. Last year, our company, our portfolio, generated 33 million impressions on social media. Now, what does that mean? That's every time somebody likes or comments on something, right? Well, we're drawing attention to ourselves. We're making sure that people know who we are. And some people don't like that, but that doesn't matter if they don't like it or not. I've got a job to take care of our investors, which means that there's a lot of noise out there, and we've got to stand out. So something that I didn't know growing up, no one ever taught me. It was self-taught. I had to go and find my weakness, and my weakness is irrelevancy, being irrelevant. What happens in a slowdown? You got to stay attention. You got to keep on the front minds of that prospect. I'm ready for a slowdown. We're ready to handle that kind of thing, because today's world, there's a lot of peacetime generals out there who've never seen a slowdown. I got involved in real estate in 2008, right in the thick of the slowdown. We bought a deal in December of 2007, and a few months later, recession time. And we had to learn 30 move-ins in, 30 move-outs out. That's just the way it was. And so I call myself a wartime general today, because I'm ready for that, because I don't want to die. I want to live. I want to survive. My investors and my team depend on me. So if I don't push myself, who's going to push us?
Yeah, I love that concept of just continuing and getting your team involved too. And it's so hard to, I spend $10,000, $20,000 to sit down with Kevin Harrington, and he taught me so much, and I was like trying to convey it to my team, but it's not the same. What you did is so much smarter, is taking your whole team, because think about it. Even people that come to see my free workshop, then they go home and try to explain it to their wife. That doesn't work. I've spent 27 years perfecting that presentation, and you're going to listen to it once and go present it to your wife? That doesn't work. It's better to take the whole team there. So that's got to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And tell me a little bit about your strategy the strategy is going to be to build that 10,000 units. What's going to be your strategy? You're going to be pulling and promoting Rockstar Capital through social media to generate investors. You're going to be generating investors at Real Wealth Academy. That's really your main aim at this point, to help you fund these future acquisitions?
It's not fun. It's to make sure we operate successfully. That's
Gotcha.
my main aim is. I've got $100 million in capital. I expect to raise another $100 million, but it's not going to happen if I don't take care of the assets. You got a lot of syndicators out there that what they do, they just come around and go to different meetup events and raise equity and give that money to somebody else. And what I mean by that is they hire a third-party manager. In our company, my dollar is right next to your dollar. In fact, my team, my staff, I have multiple members of staff that invest in every one of these apartment deals. So their personal money, their bonus money, their equity, what they've raised is in that deal too. We don't third party for anybody. We do our own stuff, right? So my goal is to make sure that if we grow properly. The last thing I want to hear is you're only as good as your last deal, right? And so I don't want anybody to think that we're focusing on fundraising or whatever. No. I'm focusing on building a team. Very few have committed the amount of resources that I have in the last 36 months to my team. We didn't have a marketing team at all. My marketing consisted of paint colors, pretty flags, and somebody holding a free rent arrow, right? Because that's what we were taught. That's all I knew, right? Even though I'm the sales guy, right? That's what I thought. I realized, dude, we are weak. We don't have a way to stand out. We need to figure out social media. I credit this one deal that we bought a few years ago. It was the one deal that I have right now that did not produce 100% returns. Almost all of them have or are scheduled to. That is the plan. And that deal didn't. But that deal taught me website management. It taught me reputation management. It taught me a series of other tactics and concepts that we use today on an everyday basis. And while that deal didn't produce the returns that I wanted to, it set us up for the next 5 years. It set us up for this phone call today to be able to sit here and tell you we have 33 million impressions because 3 years ago we didn't exist. And if you don't exist on social media, if you don't have a presence on social media, you don't exist. You really don't. And you're susceptible to a downturn because you're going to get caught with your pants down at the wrong time. Not right now. We understand Google Analytics. We understand Facebook sponsored ads. We understand SEO on the websites. And if I don't necessarily, I have to understand. I have to have the team that understands it. So I've got hundreds of thousands overhead in that marketing team, and then on the operations team. Like I said, we've got a C-suite executive team of 3, and now we have a slew of vice presidents that are over different divisions: operations, marketing, probably maintenance soon. And then you have underneath them another layer or 2. We're all working in the same direction to protect the investment. So I don't care about the equity fundraising. That if you're good enough, the market will come to you. I'm making sure that the market continues to have a reason to come to me.
That is awesome. It's amazing. Your focus is inspiring. So I want to go back a little bit. You were talking about teaching your kids to tell their story and how we were raised not to tell the story. And you're telling your story here now. That's actually one of those middle class and poor beliefs that's stagnating people. They're not telling their story, so people don't even know who they are, just like you described. I love your story. That is really interesting, Robert.
Well, think about it for a second, Steve. You get a business card, right? What do you do with it? You look at it and you probably lose it or throw it away, right? But if you see somebody, you're like, who is that? And you look them up real quick. Oh, wow. If they have a brand, you see it on social media. If they have a following, you see it on social media. You recognize real quick who somebody is by what you find online if you're interested in doing business with them.
Okay, Robert. I really appreciate you coming on the show today. That's the end of the third segment. But I'm going to let people know how they can meet you at our grand opening when we come back from the break. But thank you so much, Robert, for coming on today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. I had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, this is the GetRealWealth.com radio show. We'll talk more after the break. Thanks for listening. Did you know that 95% of Americans fail to retire by age 65 and 36% are dead? The good news is that here at the GetRealWealth.com radio show, we know what the other 5% are doing. 70% of them own real estate. We are a mentoring group for new and experienced real estate investors. We will show you how to build a second stream of income that will allow you to retire at any age. I will be explaining this at a free 2-hour introductory workshop this month. If you would like to attend, please go to GetRealWealth.com. That's GetRealWealth.com. Welcome back to the GetRealWealth.com radio show. I'm your host, Steve Davis. I want to thank Robert Martinez, again, the founder and CEO of Rockstar Capital. He is a member of Real Wealth Academy and is our top syndicator. If you want to meet him, you're thinking about possibly passively investing in real estate deals, then come to our free workshop. We've got a special event on the 26th for our members where Robert will be present. But come to the free workshop first. Go to GetRealWealth.com. Upper right-hand corner, it will say free workshop. That's getrealwealth.com. Reserve a seat at the free workshop, and I'll show you how to become a member of Real Wealth Academy if you want to. And then on the 26th, you'll meet Robert and some other syndicators to see the possibility of passively investing. It's going to be a great opportunity for those of you that want to just passively invest versus actually doing an independent real estate owner, IRO, or buying single family. And again, you heard Robert, almost every one of his deals has returned over 100% at the end of 2 years. So the rate of return is astronomical compared to what people are getting in their IRAs and 401ks now. So it is a fantastic opportunity. One more time, if you want to meet Robert, come to our free workshop first. It's getrealwealth.com, upper right-hand corner, free workshop. Getrealwealth.com, upper right-hand corner, free workshop. Okay, let's hit some emails now. I think that it's important for people to understand that you can email me about just about anything, because I actually did a show on fitness, and I got a lot of, that one actually generated more questions than any other single show. Now there's subjects that generate more questions, like passive income, because I speak about it on multiple shows, but that one hit really the highest number of emails. But you can ask me anything, and if I don't know the answer, I have mentors that do. So there's a couple of these emails I'm skipping, but I promise you, if you emailed me today, you will get your answer. It's just that I need to speak to one of my mentors before I answer this question. And these are personal, these aren't just real estate, these are family, integrating your real estate into your family. One guy's already working 70 hours a week. Good Lord. Man, that's one, it's death. I mean, there's been studies, Sweden, studies Japan, studies France, it's even been done in the United States, but nobody cares, that working over 40 hours a week is not more productive. On 2 separate occasions at 2 different companies, I made a bet with the owner. I said, anything your top guy can do in 60 hours, I can do in 40. I won that bet 9 weeks in a row. And you know what he did? Put me back to 60 hours a week. Idiotic. And then, of course, you know what happened after that. They cut my pay, and then I quit. Let's start with this. This one scares me. This is from a Chris. This is actually from Bigger Pockets, the forum. And I have replied to him. I'm actually going to directly message him. But I want everybody to hear this. He's talking about a turnkey apartment complex. That's not what it's called, Chris. It's called a yield play. It means you don't have to do any work to it. The problem, Chris, is that in the upmarket, the yield play rates of return are so low, 3, 4, 5, 6%, it's really not worth doing the deal. We're waiting for a correction or another crash before we do yield plays. So, Chris, I really don't recommend a quote-unquote turnkey or yield play deal based on the numbers that you put in your email. It would be much wiser to do like Robert, my guest who was just on, where he does value plays, value add apartments. That's where you find something that is a disaster, meaning it needs massive rehab. It's got 30% vacancy when the market is only 5%. It's got rents that are $50 a month below market. It's just a disaster. Excuse me. It's just a disaster. And you can go in and turn it around and increase the value of the property through your actions, not through the marketplace, not through speculation, but through your actions. Change the value of that property, refinance it, pull your down payment out, and go buy another one. Now you have 2 apartment complexes. So for Chris and anyone else that's thinking, I want to buy an apartment complex that's in perfect shape, watch that. There's going to have to be some really odd circumstances surrounding that for that to be worthwhile in today's market. Okay. All right. Let's talk about renting property. This email came in from, I answered this the other day. This is Bjorn. I answered this the other day. Sorry, that wasn't supposed to be in that stack. Inherited tenants. Here we go. This is from Eric. Closed on a rental property last week with a new contract in place. I know that I must maintain the original contract terms, but since the contract was between the previous owner and the tenant, should I try to have a new contract drawn up and signed, or possibly an addendum? You really don't need to do that. He goes on to say they're good tenants, according to the previous owner, always pay their rent on time, take care of the property. You really don't need to do that, Eric. You could. There's no reason, it's not going to hurt anything. But just think of it this way. You're a new owner. They're already nervous. And then you come in and go, I want to sign a whole new contract. That could cause some adversity, some challenge. I would leave it alone and just use the previous owner's lease. However, as soon as that has 30 days left on it, I'm going to call them and say, do you want to stay or do you want to move? If they say they want to stay, get over there immediately and sign a new contract. Then it's all in your name, just like you're worried about. But there's nothing to worry about. You're going to be fine. Okay. Next email is from an Anthony, just asking about what types of floors I use in my single family houses. In apartments, it's really vinyl. I'm using they call it luxury vinyl. I think it's 5 millimeters or something like that thick. Looks like wood, but it's quieter than wood. Easier to replace, easier to repair. And people love it. And there's no replacing carpet every 2 years. In my single family houses, I use either tile, ceramic tile in all living areas and carpet only in the bedrooms, or I tile the entire house. But never do I have carpet anywhere but in the bedrooms. And now I'm leaning towards, on the first floor, the luxury vinyl. Just no carpet. And that's going to be your longest lasting. And the tenants, people love it. Nobody really wants carpet anymore that I know of. People want to be able to put beautiful rugs, things like that, and be able to pick them up and wash them or clean them. Where with carpet, sure, they can bring the big truck mounted thing in there. Just not quite that, not really that effective. Okay, next question. Late paying tenant continue month to month. This is from Richard. And would you renew a lease that is coming to an end and let the lease continue month to month for an always late paying tenant? Absolutely not. I would give the tenant the 30-day notice. As soon as it's 30 days before the end of the lease, I would give them the 30-day notice to be out at the end of the lease that you're not going to renew their lease. And they're going to ask you, well, why? Because you pay late. I don't have time for that. You say, well, I get a late fee. Who cares? Get rid of them. You don't want any hassles whatsoever. That's that peace of mind. Why do I have so much time with my kids? Why does Robert have so much time with his kids? Because we don't put up with that. It's like rent is due on the first, late on the second. I evict you on the third, bro. You okay with that? Initial here. Get them out. Do not put them on a month to month. I don't do anything but 1 year leases. I don't do anything over 1 year because the law changes once you do something over 2 years. So that's my answer there, Richard, and I hope you'll take my advice, get rid of them, reduce your problems. Okay, the next one, I love this question, is actually from a Stephen, same spelling as mine. He says, I'm in the final stages of screening 2 tenants. Everything came clean. However, I'm getting ready to call their previous landlords to see how they were as renters. What are some must-ask questions? My first is always, would you lease to them again? That's my number one question. Number two, did they return the property in the same condition it was given to them in? Did they pay rent on time? Were they ever late? Did they pay the late fees? And remember to talk to 2 landlords, not just one. The first one might lie to you just to get rid of them. All right, thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your day.
This has been the GetRealWealth.com radio show. Please remember that this show is for entertainment purposes only and should not be construed as legal, tax, or investing advice. Always get a professional opinion before making any investment decision. To find out about the mentoring and consulting at Real Wealth Academy, visit GetRealWealth.com and attend one of our free introductory workshops on real estate investing. That's GetRealWealth.com. Thanks for listening and have a great rest of your day.